be doing it.
Welcome to the SOL podcast. I am your host, Shake and Bake. I am here with the Iron Man today. Iron Man, how are you, sir?
Still warming up from these frigid temperatures out.
At the ski slopes today, is that not correct?
That is correct. I was there for a few hours this morning. Yes, and it was freezing cold.
All right. Well, I got a new jacket yesterday because I've not been able to find my jacket. It's buried somewhere in the pile of storage units that now house my things, even though I do have plans for a house here in Ohio soon. So more shows to come as I won't be traveling back and forth. But I did get a nice jacket at the North Face outlet yesterday. So
very nice.
Yeah, very warm now. And we also have the co-host, Kelsey, who seems to be showing up more often. Have you noticed that?
I have. Seems to be a steady content from her recently.
A lot of content on the text.
For sure.
Sometimes at 3 a.m, I wake up and I see there's been 15 texts about 15 new ideas, which I love the enthusiasm.
There's just one time that happened.
It was at band camp.
Yeah, but no, we appreciate your feedback. It's been good. So today we've got an exciting show. Before we get to that, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. We're live broadcasting to Facebook today. We wanted to do YouTube and Facebook, but we're trying a new camera system. There's 3 cameras now in the studio, so it bounces back and forth. It is in a beta version, so apparently because of that, you can't stream to multi-destination. You're stuck with just one destination, so we chose to do the Facebook today. But we hope to have Mevo get on it and get the rest of this done so we can have multi-destinations with multiple cameras. I mean, what are they going to think of next? Matt doesn't know because he's staring at his laptop, not paying attention.
I have no idea. These guys are always coming up with something new. I would have thought this would have been easy to go to both Facebook and YouTube at the same time, but I'm not a programmer, so I have no idea.
Well, that's true.
There's a niche in the market. We'll figure out how to fill it.
Must be. Well, either way, we also are on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're on iHeartRadio, we're on Pandora, we're on Deezer, we're on another one or two verbal things I can't pronounce. There are literally thousands of different podcast forums, it seems, these days, and we're trying to make sure that we're on all of them.
Hey, I want to make sure we throw out a specific shout out to our YouTube channel. When you're looking up our YouTube channel, you need to look up the SOL Legal Podcast. Hit the subscribe button for us. It's really important. We appreciate your support.
Very important. Also, a very good point, Matt, because we were trying to find it even ourselves, and without using the channel ID, which I did put in the Facebook post, you can use that too. But it's some goofy set of numbers, letters, and other things that don't make a whole lot of sense. So Matt called me one night and said, hey, you know what? If you put legal in front of it, it pops right up. So he was good for something. Not much, but for something. And
I appreciate that, Drew.
I really was. I was proud of you, buddy, that night that you did a little research on the old YouTube.
Earning his keep.
That's right. That's right. Well, on today's show, we've got a couple exciting things that are going to be happening. The first is we're going to title the show "Hitting the Gas Too Fast, Leaving 2020 in the Past," and that actually was Kelsey's idea. I think She came up with
I
that.
like to rhyme. I can rap.
Yeah, you can rap. You can throw down a couple nasty
Spit a few bars.
spit a few bars. Right. Well, don't ever ask me to do that. My kids say I'm really bad at it. Probably true. So, also moving on with the call-in segment of the show. Please remember, you can call in. You can ask your questions. You can complain. You can do whatever you want. Share your voice. We're not going to kick you off unless you get too vulgar, and then we'll have to, because don't want to offend anybody out there with bad words. But the number is 610-600-1765 or 1SOL. Share your thoughts. And again, you can disagree. We would prefer that. It would make for better conversation. Matt, what are you doing for the Super Bowl?
No huge plans. I mean, we've got Corona going on. I know we extended the curfew in the state of Ohio, so that's nice. But I think it'll just be staying at home, a small little gathering, do some pizza, some chili. I don't know, whatever. It sounds like fun.
Kelsey, you?
I don't even know which team Tom Brady is playing tonight, so probably won't be watching. But
Oh, well,
Wait, do you know who Tom Brady plays for?
the Buccaneers now?
Okay. all
could
right.
you pick Tom Brady out of a photograph?
Yes,
Okay.
of course.
Of more than one
I was
person?
going to say.
Yeah. No,
Most
I know
women-
what
More
Tom
than
Brady
just
looks
a
like.
man and
Yeah.
Giselle?
Yes.
Okay.
I struggle from that same problem. It's so easy for the women to pick me out of a photograph given my staggering good looks.
Yeah.
So I understand how that happens, but fortunately, I believe he's married, so he's off the market for you. Sorry. Nonetheless, it will be a good game. I want to share, and I probably will put this in the YouTube post. I'll go in the description, and I'll add a recipe that I'm going to be doing with my wife and my kids tonight. It's going to be delicious. We tried it when we were down in Florida the last time over Christmas. It's a monkey bread pizza.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
It is incredible, very easy to make, and we're going to do it for the Super Bowl tonight. So I'm excited about that, and we're excited about the commercials, and we're excited that it's in Tampa, my second hometown.
Yeah.
So
Very nice.
I can't really claim the Buccaneers as a team because, I haven't lived there that long, but I'm excited that at least somebody in my second hometown is doing well, because the Bengals,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not doing
great.
it. Not doing it.
not great. So
Well, don't get too excited for the commercials, because I don't think a lot of the companies are doing them this year. Like Budweiser and Pepsi,
Yeah, but
they all
that,
said they weren't.
you know
they
what?
do it.
That just leaves openings for other new, companies to come out and show us what they got. I'm excited about it.
I am too. I think that they'll have some decent stuff that'll come up, which would be nice, because in the past, like you said, we've had so many of the same.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah.
think the Clydesdales are going to be on the? They said that they weren't, but
Well, if you're in Boston, you'll see sort of a commercial where they make fun of the Clydesdales to some degree. I believe it's got something to do with Sam Adams Boston Lager, but you won't see that play in the Columbus market.
Why not?
yeah.
They're just not playing that commercial in every market. It's just certain markets.
Well,
Can't tell
I guess
you why.
we'll find out what happens tonight. It'll be a lot of fun. But getting to our show today, before we get there, I just want to give a quick shout out. We lost a listener last night, a person that I would tell you I have about the strongest differing beliefs politically that you could possibly have with another individual. But I would have considered him to be a very good friend, which proves that we don't all have to agree on our politics. This guy was probably hater of Donald Trump, and whether you like him or not, this guy made it very clear he didn't in every Facebook post. And even though we saw things very, very differently, he was an incredible individual and somebody that always lit up the room. I'm sure the Angels are excited to have him up there. And just a shout out to Don, and we're going to miss you, buddy, and we wait to see you on the other side and catch up, but I know you'll be entertaining everybody up there. So quick shout out to Don Bush. The agenda today, we're going to have a commercial, sponsor commercial. Is that true, Matt? I heard that there was a sponsor on the
Yes, we
list.
do have a sponsor today. That'll be very interesting. Excited to hear it.
Yeah, and we may play that in the very near future, I think. But before we do that, we've got to go through a few other things. We're going to talk about the speeding in the news, because one of the issues that we have noticed and what prompted this show is that people seem to be moving a lot faster on the roads these days. We're not entirely sure why, but there seems to be some news to back it up. So Kelsey's going to share some information about that with us. Then we're going to go on and talk about the 7 speeding ticket wrong turns. There's 7 of these that we've heard, and specifically me, I've done a lot of traffic work over the years, and these are things that people will say, clients will say, that are generally not true, but nonetheless, it's something that is out there, and I think a lot of people believe. So we're going to try to clear some of that up for you. And outside of that, I think we're going to just talk about some general legal advice or legal guidance, I should say, that should help you in the event you happen to speed out of 2020 too fast. So sounds like it's going to be a good show, I think.
It's going to be fantastic.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Unfortunately, as always, considering we're going to be talking about some legal things, we're going to have to play the dreaded disclaimer. So tell me about the sponsor, Matt.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you were looking for some Valentine's gifts, boy, do we have a treat for you. And
yeah, we do.
I'm not going to ruin it. I mean, I think everyone's just going to love these new products.
I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah, for sure.
It does. And I apologize, my voice is a little rough today. This whole going back and forth between 75-degree weather down to 15 really has an effect on your voice, and I'm not liking it, so I'm going to leave Tuesday to get out of here. I want to get the hell out of here. It's awful. But anyway, what do you think, Kelsey? You get the sponsor that approached us. I think they've got a good product.
Yeah. Oh, I do too. I can't wait to try it myself. But I also just noticed too that the sponsors came as soon as I joined the panel too. So
yeah, that was a big part.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
No, that's true. It could have been that they were intimidated by Matt and I's looks and abilities, that they just felt like, well, now that we've got somebody that's, maybe not as intimidating.
Oh, more the average Joe.
Average Joe.
Got it.
Joking. All right, here we go. And this is our sponsor. We'll just let them name themselves. Well, so far, it's been pretty quiet. It's because I'm trying to download it. Oh. Now, that's a heck of a message.
Sounds like fantastic new product line from Troop Hair.
I think I know what I'm getting. My special someone. I think Kate's going to be real excited.
I agree, buddy. That's going to be fantastic.
I think I've got my order of pulled over right here. I'm about ready to do it on Amazon. I think it's at the introductory price. It looks like of $9.99 with a free box of bees. Pretty exciting. All right. Well, we wanted to do something a little fun. We've had a couple real serious shows and about some very serious things that were going on in the world, and we wanted to lighten it up just a little bit. So we hope you enjoyed that. Always trying to mix it up a bit, but also, this is something we do to enjoy ourselves and entertain ourselves and hopefully entertain some other people. So while we generally are a little more serious and we've got some more serious content or maybe some politics that are going on, things are a little more quiet in the political world. Not that that's maybe by design, I guess it could be, but in reality, we're not hearing something new, it seems, every day. I think a lot of it's being kind of done under the radar, but nonetheless, there's not as much excitement to talk about that is at least on the forefront. Would you agree?
I would agree. But there's tons of stuff and tons of topics out there for us to pick from, and I think what we've got today is great.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the legal part of things is good. We don't, want to stray too far from that, and doing a show like this where we're talking all about something that could happen to anybody out there that drives a vehicle anyway, should hopefully be helpful. So let's get right into it. Kelsey, I know that you had a couple ideas that we were going to go through, about 7, if I recall, of things that you believe that, oh, wait, I'm getting a hold sign from Matt.
Well, I thought we wanted to talk about speeding in the news.
Oh, you know what?
But I'm ready.
Following the
prepared for
outline
that,
would
too.
be a good idea. So
Yep.
I apologize. I jumped the gun. Kelsey, what's going on in the news? You're right.
I'm real curious to
I
hear
am
what's
too.
been going out on the roadways.
Yeah.
So I guess with the coronavirus, police officers were pulling people over less on the road to avoid spreading COVID. And people started taking advantage of it and speeding on the roads. And last year, between April and September, Ohio issued 2,200 tickets for people driving more than 100 miles an hour.
2,200 tickets for over 100 miles an hour. That's not tickets in general.
That's a lot of tickets.
That's just tickets for over 100 miles per hour.
I mean, that's
In Ohio,
speeding.
right.
That's
Yeah.
not like, oh, I wasn't looking at the speedometer and I was going
Oh my
78 and a 65.
Well, the
you know?
highest speed limit in Ohio is 70, so you're going at least 30 over.
And California had more than 15,000 tickets for people going.
I did not mean to hit that, and I apologize. See, I think even DeWine is trying to get in on this Corona conversation, as he normally
Trying to
does.
speed through
And so
that.
Yeah.
out of curiosity, that's probably over, what, is that double what it was in the prior years?
More than 100% increase for
Wow.
California, a 61% increase for the state of Ohio.
Oh, that's amazing.
I remember
Very
when
fast.
we went down to Florida, one of the first trips that I made down there, we drove down, and outside of it being an incredibly eerie feeling that there weren't any other cars on the road, I mean, rarely would we see cars on these main interstates that
Yeah.
obviously get you down there.
Yep.
And also was something that I noticed, we saw maybe 3 police officers the entire trip. And it's a long trip to make from Columbus down to St. Petersburg. So to only see 3 officers, it did, I think, send a message to the few that were on the road that, well, nobody's going to pull me over, so I'll just speed.
Well, I did make it up this morning to Snow Trails, and that was I was on the road from about 7:45 to 8:45, so for about an hour, and I saw no fewer than 4 highway patrolmen out there today. So
I've seen
I
a lot
mean,
more
they're-
lately.
Yeah, they're out and about. But I can tell you that over, in the early stages of COVID, I'd be out driving wherever I was going, and cars are just flying by all
Yeah.
the time. And I'm typically doing about 4 or 5 over the speed limit. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going under the speed limit or out. I'm going over, but cars are just flying by me. And it's, you've got less traffic, so less obstacles, and so the cars that want to go fast can go really fast.
Yeah, and
It's dangerous.
I don't know if you've noticed during the rush hour or the lack of rush hour. I mean, I leave at different times every day just based on what's going on, and I've yet to run into true rush hour traffic where I was stopped or even slowed down on 71, 67, doesn't matter. So there's still no real rush hour back in play, which we've noticed too in the decline of auto accidents, which is a good thing
Right.
for, the general public, not as good for attorneys that
Personal injury
practice in
attorneys,
that, that area, but nonetheless. So yeah, I'm not surprised by that news at all. What are they saying about in the article? Anything along the lines of they're going to ramp up the enforcement as a result, or is it just more just telling us what's going on that we probably already know if you're out there driving?
Just more information, but yeah. No, it doesn't say that they're going to ramp up enforcement.
Well, it does seem like they are just based on my personal experience,
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Yeah,
nonetheless.
maybe they're doing it and not telling people. So don't give them a heads up so
Yeah.
that way they can.
Well, and I can tell you that the traffic court has been moved in Franklin County. I can't speak for other counties, but in Franklin, they've moved the traffic court out of the courthouse and over to where the convention center is to hold just the traffic hearings because of the COVID situation. So I don't know if, I doubt there's a directive that says pull less people over, but in terms of just minimizing an already overloaded caseload at the courthouse, who knows? Maybe they've been given some direction to potentially not be as aggressive. I don't know. It would make sense, just given that there is just a huge backup.
Well, but I'd also think of it though from the health and safety standpoint, from either state troopers or municipalities thinking we actually need to do, because with these higher speeds come more fatalities, and they really want to tamp down on fatalities.
It's a really good point. In fact, I had an adjuster tell me the other day on the phone that they're not seeing the volume that they saw before. What they are seeing is an increase in the essentially the reserves in the cases, which ultimately means the damages are much higher, which means the injuries are much worse.
Yeah.
So you've got people who are really getting hurt, probably due to the fact that they're speeding, or they're speeding faster than they normally would, and therefore the injuries are greater.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about speeding. Obviously, we discourage these things. There's no doubt, and Matt and I can both tell you with certainty, that in a car accident case, the faster you go, the more damage is going to be caused, whether it be to the vehicle or to the person driving, to the other vehicle or the other person. It's a bad situation at high speeds. It still can be dangerous at low speeds, but it certainly ups the ante if you're going well over the speed limit. And I think that's kind of a obvious one in terms of the science and the physics behind it. But you can really hurt another person if you choose to speed and go well over the limits. My guess is the limits are there. I'm no expert on this, but I'm thinking that somebody did the math and said that there's an equation out there that if we go this amount of speed on this particular roadway, it's safe, versus another roadway that maybe is less lanes or less space or more obstacles, we're going to reduce the speed. So there's reasons that they're in place. I mean, we're all guilty of it, let's be honest. I mean, definitely Kelsey.
Never broken the law in my life.
That's not what you had said in the intro.
That was off the record.
I'm not buying that one.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll do a little research on that later. We have not done a background check yet.
We should do that immediately.
We should. Well, let's see if Kelsey's knowledge of the speeding world and the speeding rules, if you will, are right on point. I have a feeling that they are, but we're going to find out. And there's 7 of them, so give us the first one, Kelsey. Actually, why don't you tell Matt and see what Matt thinks about this one?
So the police officer has to be stationary in order for them to accurately clock how fast I'm going, right?
That would be incorrect, Kelsey. No, they do not have to be stationary. They don't have to be sitting on the side of the road or in the middle of the road or anything like that. There's a lot of different ways they can do it. I mean, that is certainly a way they could do it, but they can also track your speed while they're driving toward you. They're instant on radar, pacing either on the road or in the air. So there are a lot of different ways in which they can track your speed that doesn't include them just way.
Yeah, a lot of times I've heard that over the years. Well, they weren't sitting there clocking me. How would they know what my speed was? If an officer's coming towards you, they do have this instant on radar that when it hits your bumper, they can direct it that way. Hits your bumper, it goes back to them. It tells you what your speed is. Another, I think, somewhat of a fallacy is that, they can't pace you. And pacing is a big deal. If you are listening to your favorite jams and not paying attention to who's behind you and you're speeding, well, an officer could be behind you and they could maintain this, or at least they're supposed to maintain the same distance between their vehicle and your vehicle to pace you the same way you would if you were following another person and checking the speed on your speedometer. Now, I will say that these are good cases. A lot of times pacing cases make for good defense cases because there are some protocol they need to be following that if they don't follow it, they're not going to have the right speed.
Yeah, you could poke more holes in that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And generally, I would say that's probably your better case to defend in speeding, because a lot of people will say, well, they didn't show me the radar.
They didn't calibrate their radar.
That's not calibrated. I read it online that you can beat your speeding ticket as long as you calibrated it. Prove they didn't calibrate the radar. There may be, some truth to that, but these guys are generally, and gals are generally calibrating their radar on a regular basis. So I don't think that's going to be a big win for you. But if you were clocked at a pacing scenario, you may have a better case. So, well, that was a nice try, Kelsey. You were on it. Maybe the next one you'll get right.
All right. So I don't need a lawyer if I get a traffic ticket. I can just represent myself in court.
That's what you're doing.
That's
You're going
exactly
through
what-
hell, and then you just don't get a lawyer, and you keep
Now,
going.
wait a minute. I've got a constitutional right to represent myself in these cases.
Oh, I don't know where I put that.
And the
I had
judge
a
would
pretty
say,
good
I have a
joke.
constitutional
Right, to
duty
tell you you're
to
an
tell you
idiot.
you're an idiot.
Yeah. Look, I have had clients call me and they've asked me, Drew, do you want to take this case? And if it is one that I think there's not much I can do for them, and it's a lower degree speeding case, and let me just branch into that real quick. There's different degrees of misdemeanors, 1 down to minor. That's a 1, 2, 3, 4 minor misdemeanor. Minor misdemeanor is the lowest of all the misdemeanors out there. It does not carry jail time. That's one of the big parts as to why it's a minor misdemeanor. The fine is going to be relatively low in the big scheme of things, and typically it's not going to ruin your life or somehow tarnish your criminal record to where you're not going to be able to get jobs and things like that. So with that being said, I still think that it's important to have a lawyer, and this is why. There are different things that lawyers can do in these cases. One would be they can evaluate the importance of whether or not this speeding ticket is part of your record. For example, a commercial driver may be in a position where they're in a bad spot if they get points on their license. Someone who drives a semi-truck or perhaps a taxi driver, which I represented many of the taxi drivers before Uber was around. And, having points was a real problem with that, for them to have those on their license. So that's something to consider. Another thing is there are ways around speeding tickets. They don't generally happen to be, I guess, from a legal standpoint, as much as they become more of a technicality. And the technicality is generally something that involves maybe the state can't prove its case because they don't have someone there to prove it, or possibly just that there is an incentive, because there are a lot of cases, to reduce cases to different things that we'll talk about later. I don't want to blow going into some of the next ones, but there is always a reason, I think, to have a lawyer if it's important to you. If you're the type of person that says, look, I don't care if my insurance goes up, I don't care if I have a few points on my license, it's not going to kill me, then maybe you choose to not have a lawyer or go in and read the internet and represent yourself, which is a terrible idea. But
All right. I want to give a quick shout out to
lot of
Facebook
shout-outs, too.
Live listener, Brittany. Brittany apparently just flirts her way out of tickets.
Does not surprise me at all.
that sounds like something that is not part of a legal defense, but possibly a more practical defense.
I think
don't know.
she might need some pulled over by True Pair.
Maybe she already has been using
She
pulled
might
over,
have pulled over.
and that's how she's been able to flirt her way out. I mean, obviously it works. You heard the commercial.
Yeah,
So
60% of the time works every time.
there it is. All right. All right. Well, hopefully that at least, I guess, takes care of some of the questions regarding whether you should have a lawyer. It's always a good idea. I think, obviously, I'm a lawyer. Maybe I'm biased, but, I mean, you don't work on your own car if you're not a mechanic. You probably shouldn't handle your own speeding ticket if you're not an attorney. So there you go.
So if I pay the fine, then the ticket won't show up on my record, right? I just can pay a monetary fee and be done with it?
That sounds pretty good so far. So you paid it, and then you sent it in. You sent in your check. You paid the ticket. And
Yeah. And then it just doesn't show up on my
It's like a
record
not
anymore.
guilty kind
Yeah.
of, right? Oh, no, that's not right.
No, that is not correct.
Not
The moment you pay the ticket, essentially you got to read the ticket, but it's an admission of guilt. You're admitting liability for the ticket, and you pay for it. It's done. It'll be on your record, and it'll actually be on the the BCI record forever. So it'll be there.
That'd be the BMV.
Or sorry, BMV.
BMV. Yeah.
Well, Bureau of Criminal Investigation, Bureau of
I
Motor
don't know if
Vehicles.
they're going to put that, but either way, it's going to be on your record. Matt's correct.
Yeah.
It's going to be on your record forever. That's the bummer of it.
Yeah, you're admitting your liability by paying the ticket. You're admitting guilt to the offense.
Yeah. So what happens? You send it in. You've told the court, I'm paying the money. I'm not putting up a fight. I'm not going to plead not guilty. I'm basically giving you the money in exchange for understanding that I'm guilty for the charge, and it will show up on your record. Now, outside of that, you didn't go to court, so you're not going to have any sentence, so to speak, from the court. That's why they give you the pay sheet to tell you how much you have to pay. And if you pay your ticket, just so you know, you're not going to pay the court cost because you're not going to court. Court costs are in addition to a fine that a judge might issue. So a lot of people will say, well, I only got a fine of $75, but now it says I have to pay $225. I don't understand. Fair question, and it does seem a little backward, but the court has to run through its fine or through its cost, and its costs are on every case and for everything that happens during court, continuances, additional hearings, whatever's being done costs something, and that administrative cost is actually passed on to you as the defendant in the event you are found guilty or you plead guilty in court and you go through the court process, then you're going to have to pay the fine and the court cost. If there's a benefit to sending it in, maybe it's you avoid the court cost, but you're guaranteed guilty and it's on your record. So I liked where you were at with that. You were going down the right road for a little bit, but then derailed. Or should I say you hit a speed bump?
Nice. Well, all right. What if I go into court and I plead no contest? Then will it not show up on my record?
Now this one
blown up again.
Now I will give you a
Thinking about
pass.
Battleship.
I'm going to give you a pass on this one, Kelsey, because this is something that I hear all the time. I've heard for 15 years, and I don't blame anybody that says it because it's just such common nonsense out there. Everybody says, I know my mic's doing something weird. Do you hear that? I've got a bad connection.
Not sure what's going on there with Shake and Bake's microphone, but
Time out. You go ahead.
he's got to quit moving it around on us. There we go.
You think that? Oh, there it is. I apologize. I don't know what's. I know I touched it too much. I think I should just leave it alone.
Stop playing with the mic,
I
Drew.
know. Sorry.
Sit on your hands.
I know. But the no contest thing is just a huge misnomer. People think that it means I'll plead no contest, and then that way either A, I'll get out of the ticket, or B, somehow that will like not go on my record because I said no contest. Here's what no contest means. When they issued you the ticket, that's a complaint. The complaint says you were speeding. The speeding complaint is what the judge is looking at as to be the facts of the case. If you say, I plead no contest, you're saying, I do not agree with what's in the complaint. That's what no contest means. I do not agree with what's written in the complaint. In other words, I don't agree that I was speeding. That is not a defense that you don't agree. Unfortunately, I mean, you could say, I want to have a trial, and you can try your case and say I wasn't speeding, which you probably, or you might testify, especially if you have a lawyer, you wouldn't know any better. So you would testify and say, I didn't do it. But regardless, you're saying I don't agree with the facts that are as they are in the complaint. The judge is going to look at the complaint or the ticket and say, okay, well, it says here you were, and the officer signed it, and you're guilty. So you pled no contest, but there was a finding of guilt. So it still shows as a disposition of, that you were found guilty, whether you pled no contest or not. There is one situation why no contest matters. It's a big one, too. It's involved in, more so in our area of practice, Matt and I's area of practice of personal injury. In the event you have a car accident and it's your fault. Now, remember, this gets into the weeds a bit, but in a criminal case, the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. The highest level of proof, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what the state has to prove to make sure that they can win their case. In a civil case, it's preponderance of evidence. It's less. It's more likely than not, or greater than 50% you were speeding down the road. If you plead no contest, you're saying, I don't agree that I was going over the speed limit. And why does that matter? Not really in your criminal case. It matters none. What it does matter for is if you hit someone, then you've not admitted anything in the criminal court. Just because the court found you guilty, you haven't admitted anything that could hurt you in your civil case. Because if you pled guilty in your criminal case, that's a higher standard. There'd be nothing to prove. The civil lawyers wouldn't have to prove a thing because you've already said you did it. I mean, there may be more to it depending on what you did, but I'm just saying that's what no contest is reserved for. It's reserved so that you do not have civil liability down the road from something like a traffic violation that if you pled guilty to, you've just extinguished your ability to defend yourself in a civil case. That's a lot of talking. Sorry, but I hope that makes sense.
No, it does, and I didn't know the difference, so thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
All right.
we'll move on. What are
We
we
got
on
a few more here for you. So,
Okay.
any traffic ticket that I get will add points to my license, right? Come on, give
Matt,
me
I
one.
don't even know if I have any more sound effects.
I don't know if
over
we
here.
can keep blowing things up all day.
I was
Jeez.
going to say, let me see if I can find. Well, I always like this one. I just can't help it. I'll never get sick of that.
So no, that's incorrect. Not every ticket is going to give you points on your license. There are non-moving violations, headlight issues, or maybe mirror issues, things like that. But those are non-moving violations that won't give you any points. Also, there are no points on certain speed tickets as well, 9 miles an hour or under. That sounds odd the way I'm going to say it. 9 miles an hour or under over the speed limit. So less than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Yeah, so it hates me. There's something called no point speed. And this is something that comes up a lot in the plea agreements that we will discuss with prosecutors. They'll say, okay, your person was 15 over. We'll offer a no point speed. What does that mean? Like Matt said, it basically takes that down to less than 10 over the stated speed limit. So if it's 65, it might get amended from 75 to 74. What that does, in effect, is it never gets reported as a points violation to the BMV. Therefore, the points are zero, but in all honesty, if you look at your abstract or you look at how the case is disposed of, it will say speed, albeit no points, but it's still a speeding charge.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, does your insurance company care about that? That's what I get a lot is, will my insurance go up if I get a speed and not a no point speed? That's a tough one. I'm not an insurance company, and I don't have any clue what their standards and policies are in determining what rates you qualify for. But I can tell you this. A lot of insurance companies do only look at the points. They may not look at the details of the abstract. So if they see you had 2 points the last time you applied for insurance and you have 2 points now or 0 points now, then they may not dig any further. Some may. I can't speak for every insurance company out there, but I can tell you that's kind of the general rule. So a no point speed is certainly better than a point speed, but that you're not necessarily going to always have points. And another way is if you get something that's called like a muffler violation. Have you heard that before? Or perhaps a headlight violation or a tail light or even a license plate light. Those are considered non-moving violations. They're equipment in nature. They're not about how you were operating the vehicle. And therefore, those are no point offenses because you're not technically operating the vehicle. So you can get around points that way too. And sometimes that's, again, another one of those things that could be offered by a prosecutor in the event they don't feel they have a great case, or perhaps, they have no way to prove their case. They may say, well, I want to try to make sure I get more evidence to prove it. But today, if you want to just take the no point speed, or I'll amend this to possibly a muffler violation, which they don't do anymore because the whole ethics discussion on that we can have later. But that's one way to get out of the points.
But none of that matters anyways because I can just go get my traffic record expunged.
Oh
my goodness.
My head hurts, but at the same time, this isn't fair. We've really set her up with all the things that are wrong, so it's not very nice. But these are the hazing things that happen when you start on a new program. But no, there is no expungement per se for traffic tickets or traffic citations. This is another one of those things that many people think I'll just expunge my record. There are things that can be expunged off your record. That's a discussion for another day. Traffic is not one of them. It will always be part of that BMV abstract. Now, one thing that you might want to consider is even though you can't expunge it, the points do fall off. All right. So after 2 years, the points will fall off. If I get a speeding ticket today and I have 2 points on my license, 2 years from now, I'll have 0 points on my license, assuming I didn't get another speeding ticket in between. So that's one way to, I guess, get it off your record.
How many points till you get your license suspended?
Great question. It's 12. So at 12 points, you get a 12-point suspension, and that's not something you want. You always want to check to see, I guess, if you're a habitual speeder, what your current point status is, because if things aren't falling off or you've got too many at one time, or if you pick up a more serious traffic citation like an OVI or any other, maybe a reckless op, you've got more points with those citations than you do a general speeding ticket, which is 2 points. So you got to keep an eye on that, or you can find yourself in a big time problem.
And then if I don't have a copy of my insurance information in the car with me to show the officer, is that an extra ticket that I get on top of that?
Do you like how she asked that question that time? She didn't state that she gets an extra ticket. She just asked.
She just asked it.
That was smart.
She didn't want to get blown up again.
I like
Thank you.
it. No,
Thank you.
this is a really, really important one, and it's the last one, is it not?
I have 2 bonus ones for you after
bonus.
this.
I like
Yes.
I like bonus. But this is very important. So when you're stopped for any traffic citation, the officer will ask you if you have proof of insurance. Don't freak out. You're not going to get a second ticket for not having proof of insurance. A lot of people think that, but that's not the case. If you have insurance, but you happen to not have your card handy, which little tip for the listeners, go ahead and put it on your phone. They're accepting photographs of your insurance on your phone now. It's a heck of a lot easier to find that on your phone than it is to dig through your glove box with Kleenexes and God knows what else
COVID
is in there.
mask.
Yeah,
Mask.
COVID masks that have been worn 900 times that you don't want to touch with your fingers, things like that. So put a copy on your phone. But they will look at that, and then they will mark it that financial responsibility has been shown. If you don't have it, then it's not the end of the world. You're not going to get a second ticket. But you need to be aware that you did not have it at the time of the stop. I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. One, you decide, I don't want to get a lawyer. I don't care. I'm paying my ticket. If you pay your ticket, you need to send in proof of insurance with that check so the BMV can see and the court can see, and then send something to the BMV that shows that you had insurance. If you go to court and you argue your case, you have a lawyer, which would be the smart way. Make sure your lawyer has a copy of that insurance so the lawyer can show the court that you had insurance at the time and you got no problems. The third and sometimes most damaging situation is when someone doesn't provide proof of insurance to the court, doesn't give it to their lawyer, sends something in without their proof of insurance. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to get a letter, and the letter is going to be from the BMV. And you're going to think, I already renewed my registration. Why are they sending this to me again?
Throw it
To
away.
the shredder or in the trash can. So you're going to cruise down the road, and then like a month later, you're going to be out driving around. You're going to look down at your radio or your phone, run through a stop sign, hear the cop behind you and think, I'm an idiot. I shouldn't run through the stop sign. They're going to come up and say, Mr. Baker, we're going to have to ask you to step out of the car. And you're going to say, well, I know I just ran the stop sign. I'm not like, it wasn't that big of a deal. And they're going to say, you're driving with a suspended license, sir. You don't have a valid license. And then I'm going to say, what are you talking about? I have insurance. I've only got 1 speeding ticket in the last 3 days. I don't understand why. What do you mean? And they're going to arrest me and take me to jail. And then I'm going to have to call a lawyer. The reason being is I didn't reply to that letter that the BMV sent me. That letter is so important that I reply with proof of insurance so they mark it. If I don't, my license becomes suspended, and I may not have any clue that I've got a suspended license. And guess what you win when you drive with a suspended license? A trip to the jail. Woo!
Yay.
The Franklin County COVID tank.
Can't wait.
Yeah, lots of fun. So I can't stress this enough. If you got stopped and you didn't have insurance, make sure whatever you do, either the court knows about it or you send it in with your ticket or your lawyer knows about it. Give them a copy of the insurance. And one side note here, okay, quick. You know what I get a lot of times? Here's my insurance. Well, this says that you've got insurance now, but this was back
This was the
a
day
month
after you
ago.
got pulled over.
Yeah. Did you have insurance then? No. Well, I need to show them insurance for the time in which you were stopped, not
Right.
a month later. That doesn't help. So it's got to be, look at the valid through date. It'll give you both dates and make sure your ticket falls somewhere in between the two. And if it doesn't, you're out of luck. Okay. That won't work. So, all right. Stop babbling. But that's
Right.
a big one for me. I've just had a lot of people get in trouble over the years for that.
So now we did have, we're talking about MISS, but we had another Facebook Live watcher tell us sometimes officers don't show up in court. So when you're trying to fight the ticket, if you do have a trial and you go to court and the officer doesn't show up. Now, we talked about this earlier, and there's a difference between the arraignment
Correct.
and the actual trial.
That's right.
Yeah. So in the event that they don't show up for the arraignment, not such a big deal. It's not the end of the world.
That's right.
But they do need to be present at the trial typically.
That's right. So the officers don't have to be at the arraignment because you're just entering a plea of presumably not guilty. And then it'll be set for a trial. The reason that if the officer chooses not to show up at court, that becomes an issue is that the state can't prove their case. They have no one to testify as to what was done and to clock the speed and that it was your car. They can identify you. They can identify the vehicle. So without any of that, the state can't prove its case, and therefore they're going to have to throw it out. But remember, sometimes police officers, believe it or not, they're just people like us, and things come up. They either have an appointment that they have to be at. Perhaps their kids have something. Maybe they're off school. Maybe they're sick. You never know. But you luck out, to be honest, if you show up at court after asking for a trial and the police officer's not there. You luck out because the case is likely going to be dismissed. Now, one side note, the prosecutor can say, I'd like a continuance. Now, practically speaking, if it's just a kind of your run-of-the-mill speed, it's probably not the most interesting case on the prosecutor's desk that day. So there's a chance that you might end up getting a plea offer of one of the things we discussed before, like a no-point speed or a dismissal for court cost. That may happen, or the whole case may get thrown out just because they can't prove the case.
Well, that was one of my 2 bonus questions. So
Well, he ruined that for you, didn't he?
So for the second one,
Came from one of her friends on
Yeah.
Facebook
so
Live.
thanks, Juanita. But are you more likely to get a speeding ticket at the end of the month because the police officers are trying to fill a quota?
This is a great question, and I'll be honest, I don't know. I have no idea. I've got a brother-in-law. He's a great guy and a cop down in Dayton. I know we've had this conversation before. He's not aware of any quota that you hear about. I don't know where this was started. The only thing I can figure is there are times possibly within the department where either there's locations, there's been extra accidents, or there's a known speeding area, or maybe they ramp up the enforcement. But I'm not aware of any specific quota requirement that officers must reach to, I guess, satisfy their job duties. I'm not aware of that. So I wouldn't base your speeding decisions on whether or not it's the beginning or the end of the month, Probably best to just not speed at all and avoid the tickets and avoid the possibility of hurting somebody. But that is a common and outright all the time. Well, I think it was the end of the month, and that's why I got it, because they were trying to meet their quota. Hear it all the time.
Valid legal defense.
Probably not overly valid, probably not even practical in terms of a defense, but you can always, I guess, use the newest defense I heard, which is just cough a lot and act like you're sick, and they'll leave you alone. I don't think I wouldn't recommend that one either. It's probably a bad one too, but maybe just be polite and call a lawyer and get it taken care of if need be.
Call the Baker Law Group.
Or the Baker Law Group. I mean, that'd be the best place I can think of to call. What about you, Matt?
I agree. Totally.
Yeah,
totally.
right.
Because the defendant that represents themselves has a fool for a client.
That's right. Boy, he's full of the quotes today, isn't he?
Sorry.
I liked it. It was good. It was good. Well, any other questions that I need to take care of on the traffic ticket front?
I think we covered everything.
All right. Well, hopefully we've debunked a few of the myths out there. And along the way, we had a little fun. It's been a good day today. Good show. We got a football game in a couple hours, so we can't drag on too much longer. We got to get ready for.
We
Take that monkey
apologize.
bread.
Yeah, we apologize to all our live listeners. Apparently, our commercial didn't come across. The audio didn't come across during the live play. It will be available at the YouTube channel when we repost it down the road.
I'm crushed.
Me too.
I am totally crushed.
Our sponsors will be crushed too.
Oh, they'll be. There goes that contract. Let's be honest. That contract is gone. Well, that's actually okay. Because see, here's why that's nice. You'll get to go back and listen again, which is going to reaffirm this knowledge, this free guidance that was out there today. And you're going to get to enjoy a hilarious commercial along the way. So
Win-win.
we'll get it plugged in for you, not to worry. And then you can also obviously find the edited version of our podcast on all of the forums we mentioned earlier, iHeart and iTunes and all those. I will edit that and get that out hopefully by tomorrow sometime before noon. And that will also have the commercial as well. Go ahead and stick that in there, make sure we didn't forget anything. Where to find us outside of that is, of course, our new YouTube channel. And please subscribe. We've got to get those numbers up. I didn't even know what subscribe was. I thought if you hit like, that did it, but that doesn't do it.
No, you need to hit the
actually have
subscribe
hit
button.
Subscribe.
Yep,
That's-
please
Yeah,
smash that
the
subscribe
bell
button for us.
isn't subscribe either.
No,
Yeah, the bell
Don't
looks
hit the-
like it could be too.
that's
and
just
it's
for
not.
alerts.
That's right.
Yep.
One more thing just about an upcoming show, and we're really excited about this. Stephen Carr wrote a book called Power Beliefs, and I've read the book. It's outstanding. I can't say enough good things about it. We are in contact with Mr. Carr and plan to have him on the show. As of now, we're hoping at the end of this month, if not early March. Really, we have to make sure that Matt and Kelsey read the book because it would be a little embarrassing to have him on the show if they hadn't read the book cover to cover like me. But it is, and it really, truly is an incredible book that addresses why we think the way we do, how we form our beliefs, how strong certain beliefs are over others. And we're going to parlay into how the political realm has struggled and how we've got to this incredibly divisive, almost impossible situation where we cannot have political conversations with someone who doesn't see it the way that we do. And what's going on in our brains, like what's going on with our behavior that's causing us to not be able to have those discussions anymore. So Steve's going to talk to us about
It's
that.
going to be
I
really
cannot
good.
wait for that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
This is
I
gonna
mean,
be
I think
really good.
I need the science. I need
Yes.
the science to understand why
That-
it seems so clear cut to me. And then I talk to somebody else and they look at me like I'm from Mars.
Put
So,
your tinfoil hat on.
Well, I mean, you sort of are.
well, how do you know?
Men are from Mars.
You never know. Well, the other thing too is they're releasing all these documents about the confidential contracts with aliens. I heard.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
true. This is out there. A lot of this declassified material is pretty much establishing that aliens are here. So how do you know? Maybe I'm one.
Ooh.
Like Men in Black style.
Watch your back. Watch your back. All right. Well, thank you to all of our listeners. We really appreciate it. Can't wait to talk to you again soon. We'll get this out post haste. I am Shake and Bake. Thanks for being on today, Iron Man.
It's great to be here.
Thanks, Kelsey. You're picking up the pace. You're seeming like you're more relaxed and comfortable, which is good.
I am. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks
All
for
right.
noticing.
Absolutely. All right. Well, everybody have a great day. Enjoy the Super Bowl. And until next time, this is Shake and Bake from the SOL podcast, signing off.